Check this out, people. I'm here on vacation on Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. Well, it's not really Myrtle Beach. We're like a few miles away from it, but this is like Garden City Beach. But just look at this view I got up here. On the 11th story of this like hotel resort place. But I figured, what a special occasion to go ahead and film a video. I actually really wanted to film this out on that balcony with like the ocean behind me, but I don't think the lighting would be any good, and it's just too loud. The waves are just too loud. I'm gonna do this video that I promised I'd do like a couple months ago, so I'm a little late, but hey, I'm at least doing it now. Where I got on my Instagram and my Jared Coker Urbex YouTube channel community page, and I asked you guys what videos I've done, what explore videos I've done that you wanted me to like talk about and retell like the stories of how they came to me and stuff like that. So these are the ones you suggested, so these are the stories I'm going to be telling. Alright, first up we have almost caught at closed down college. So the entire basis of this video, when I filmed it, well, I guess I technically filmed it twice. One was the actual events that happened, and two was me retelling the story for the video just for added effect. But the night this actually took place was, I think, October of 2020, so this was a long time ago. And when I actually wound up publishing it was about 8 months later, so I purposely waited a long time before I actually talked about this, because it was kind of a scary encounter at the time. But basically how this video came to be was I was just feeling really bored and spontaneous one night. So I went out to this college campus, which I had known had been vacant for many years. No one had actually been using it. It didn't necessarily mean it was abandoned, because I happens to know that like most of the power and stuff still works there. Most of the property is still somewhat maintained. I just knew that if I happened to find a door that was unlocked, I could get into a building. So what ended up happening was I found a window that was just fully out because the building was under renovation at that time, so I hopped on in there. But in doing so, while I was crossing the yard itself, there was this neighborhood dog or property watch dog, I still don't even know what it was, that must have seen or heard me walking by, so it just started barking its head off for like 15 minutes nonstop. So that must have alerted someone, or someone must have seen me somehow, or saw my flashlight shining through the windows of this building that I was there. So all of a sudden, while I'm starting to get comfortable there, about to film the video, I see like a person with a flashlight headed my way. So I duck down, I hide, and I can see like flashlights pouring in the windows and everything. I'm like, oh my god, like I'm trapped here. Eventually I just waited out, and they went away, or at least I assume they did, because I snuck out another door that I found that was open and got out of there. And for a while that was like my closest call, like my scariest encounter while exploring. And it's just kind of funny looking back on it, how the only reason that video even came to be was because I was just feeling bored and spontaneous one night. And I said, hey, let's get my camera out. Let's go see if we can just film a video, because this was during a period on my channel where I hadn't really been too active. Like I was still kind of trying to film what I could, what I had access to in the area. All that was really been coming out as that point in time had been just like little mini episodes. There've been like plenty of gaps between weeks because I just was busy with school. I wasn't doing anything else, so I just said, hey, it's like midnight, let's just go out and try to film something. And then all that happened. Wound up crouching down in that place until like probably 1 or 1:30 a.m. before I was able to get out. There's not much additional info I can really say about that, considering I did like a whole 20-minute video by itself on Jared Coker Urbex talking about it, because that basically was the whole episode there. I don't know, up until that point I'd never really been caught yet, so that was like my closest encounter, and that for a while was like my most intense video, or like my most intense experience anyway. Up next, we had suggested exploring an abandoned bowling alley. Now this one comes off of the Oklahoma tour from 2021, which I guess technically is my first ever road trip I've ever taken. If any of y'all are following the channel nowadays, that's been all I've been doing for like the past almost year. This was during a time when I was in Springfield, Missouri for school, so I was like just looking around maps, like what's a good city I could just travel to for a couple days and film as many videos as I could. And I chose to go the Oklahoma direction down towards OKC, which is where this video takes place. This came during the second day of that trip. It was the 7th video that I'd filmed, because I filmed 6 on the first day, I believe. And then this one was the very first one I filmed in OKC. So it was the 7th overall, and the only reason I even had this place on my list was because it was a bowling alley and entertainment center, at least back in its day before it closed in like the 80s. And anyone who knows me knows that like bowling is like one of my life's passions. It's like the one thing I have that I care for like more than anything else as far as like hobbies and activities go. So it had already been like a major bucket list item for like years at this point to do an abandoned bowling alley if I could ever find one. So this was my chance. But normally this isn't the type of place I'd go out of my way for, because I already knew prior, just from like basic context and just assumptions, that it wasn't really that great of a place. It was just the notion that what if there was like some bowling alley stuff left in there? I gotta go check it out anyway. I gotta like try it. So I get there, I walk in, and there's like smoke filling the place. I thought it had recently been on fire maybe, but it was revealed that there were like homeless people camping there. They had a little campfire, but they were friendly. They were no threat, no harm, so we just kind of kept our distance. So I'm going around this first open room, and I'm like, oh no, it's what I thought. The place really doesn't have anything left in it. It's just kind of an empty shell of a building. So I'm like, man, this sucks. What if all the bowling alley stuff isn't there anymore? But as it turns out, I just had the wrong room, because going across the place, it was revealed that the old bowling alley machines were in the other half of it. So when I walked into there and I could see them looming off in like the distance between all like the smoke and darkness, I was like, yes, we did it. We got a bowling alley. And there actually is still bowling alley stuff left in there. So there was a weight off my shoulder. I found like all the machines. There were like old rotting pins still left back there. So it was just so cool to be able to say, me as a bowler, I did an abandoned bowling alley. And that was basically the entire point of me filming that video. That was like number 7 out of a 13 spot road trip, at least 13 places that we got filmed anyway. I'll just always remember it because it's the first, well, still first, but still only bowling alley I've ever done as far as exploring. But who knows, in time, if I'm lucky enough, I'll find another one. Up next, we have the abandoned grain elevator from Kansas City. I don't know why. This one didn't really like, y'all wanted to know about this one, even though for some reason this one never really was that great to me. I don't know. It's like at least compared to other things I've done, I'd say. But I had a couple people ask about this one. So basically, the whole point of this one was, this is one of the really old OG videos. This is one of the older ones I've done. I think this was like the 10th or 11th or whatever Explore video I'd ever done at this point. It was actually put up on this channel originally before I even branched off and re-uploaded it to my Explorer channel. And then it started to get more attention once that channel was getting more attention. But basically, with that in mind, this video was filmed for this channel, and this was during like the summer of 2019 that I did this. I remember I filmed like 3 videos in 3 days, and that was a lot for me back then before I really started to go ham on the Explorer channel. But that made me feel good at this point because I felt like I was really out there grinding, just getting places in. So this was during like my original Kansas City tour. And basically the whole concept of this one was that it was incredibly hard to get to. I was just lucky there was no like fencing or any like actual guarding around it. But what I had to do was I had to like walk under a bridge underneath an interstate. Then I had to cross like 7 or 8 railway train tracks. And then get in while I think even like a railroad truck drove by me at one point. I don't know how it didn't see me. As far as grain elevators go, this one was the first one I'd ever really been able to get up into, like up to the top levels, because it had a stairway. I was way less daring back then so I wouldn't do like crazy climbs on ladders, which is what you usually find in grain elevators like this. So this one had a stairway, so I didn't have to climb anything. And I just remember like it being the first time I was ever really that high up at an abandoned place. I was at least a good 150 feet up there. And it was just a cool experience because I was just looking over like the interstate and all the tracks. I think I could see downtown KC from there too. And I just remember thinking, wow, I am insane for this. Because I have a lot of people ask me about this one nowadays, whenever I'm getting like messages and stuff. But back then in like 2019, apparently it was a pretty uncommon thing for people to go do that. So I don't know, y'all were curious about this because it's one of my more viewed Kansas City era videos, but to me it was kind of just another grain elevator nowadays when I look back on it because I've done so many of them. But back then it was kind of a groundbreaking moment because I really got up there high up into one of them. And it was just a cool experience knowing I pulled that off, despite all those obstacles in my way. Next up, we have another one from the Kansas City era tour, at least the original one from back in 2020. And this is the abandoned hospital in Kansas City. Now this one actually, at this point in time, they are just getting ready to demolish it. It's called the Trinity Lutheran Hospital. It was a hospital that was abandoned for, I want to say like 10, 15 years, back in like the early 2000s or mid 2000s. Now, this is how you know I was really like an amateur back then, but I had just started my Urbex channel. And I had just filmed like a video like a couple days ago. And I was, at this point in time, really committed to really starting like the grind. And I was really committed to trying to maintain a weekly upload schedule, meaning at least every week I would film an Explore video and post it. Because even though I had like 12 subs at this time when I first started this channel, or at least when I first started the Explorer channel anyway, I was committed to like try to like hang with the best of them, you know, have a work ethic that was like actually get me somewhere, you know. So I filmed a video and then I went out and for the first time in my life I filmed 2 Explore videos in one day. And this one here from Trinity Lutheran Hospital was the second one. The one prior to that was John K. Stark School. It was the first school I'd ever done, so that was already a productive day for me. It's ironic because both of these locations are now either demolished or in the process of being demolished. John K. Stark School, it's gone now. And this hospital, it's about to be gone too. They're literally setting up for demolition as we speak, as I'm filming this. But to me, the biggest takeaway from this place, other than the fact that I straight up got lost and was wandering around in the basement for like 4 or 5 minutes, just desperately looking for a staircase, the biggest takeaway was still that like this is the first time I ever filmed 2 videos in a day. And it just made me feel so good that like I now had 2 videos to put out for the next couple weeks. I could plan whatever I wanted. I could just go into Kansas City again and film whatever I needed to film. And I was really like feeling like, even though I only had like I said, like 12, 15 subs, I felt like I was performing like those bigger channels that I looked up to. So it just really gave me hope for like the future. It kind of basically just told me, yeah, you can do this, you know? You can maintain a weekly upload schedule. You can hang with those big guys, even if you're not as big as them. It was basically just me proving to myself that I could go out and I could really like put in the work and effort to find and film these places. And I could maintain a weekly schedule as I still do to this day. But kind of going back to what I was saying about what an amateur I was, this is before I even really knew how to research places. Like I really knew how to like find a building and actually like plug in the address to just see what I can find about it and its old history and whatever. So when I got to this hospital, I didn't even know it was a hospital. I had a hunch that maybe it was because it just kind of looked like one just from the outside. But once I got in and found like some old like equipment and like beds and stuff and or just signs that it was, even though it had been abandoned for like 15 years at this point, I was like, yeah, this is a hospital. Either way, I'm much better now at actually knowing what a place is before I go there. At least unless there was absolutely nothing I could find, but even still, just like I did back then, I can usually tell just by like the outer shape of a building generally what it was or what its purpose was. So But back then, you know, I was a little like 12, 15 sub amateur, so I was just out here trying to grind it out. So all I knew was that, hey, it was a big abandoned building, let's sneak in there. You know, just old amateur me. But it worked out all right. And to this day, it's one of my more viewed Kansas City videos. And last but not least, we have the abandoned hospital, the untouched hospital, former tuberculosis sanatorium. Man, the story about this one I could take in so many different directions, so I'm going to try to like cover them all. But I think the most notable thing that I can tell you about this one is that the very existence of this location itself was how I met my good buddy Phoenix, who is still to this day one of like my absolute best pals. This was the first time ever meeting him because he was the one who even told me and our other friend Emily about this place, so that was why it was the three of us in that video. That was our first time ever meeting him. And me and him went along to have so many other like crazy adventures after this, and we're still like best pals to this day. Filming this with him that day was the very reason I even met him. You know, the whole reason we were even there in that town to film that hospital was to technically not even film it. We were just gonna wait around there and see what was up with the place and then go and film it the other day. Looking back on it, I'm not sure why, especially with how I go about business nowadays. With if I see a way in, I'm jumping for it immediately. We pulled up on that place. I brought my camera up, which is why my intro was filmed like right there in front of it, not at my car, which is what I usually do. I just get out of my car, film an intro, and then go try to get to a place. That's why that intro was filmed up there, because I brought my camera just on the off chance we did wind up doing it. But the second we saw like a broken window right on the front, we were basically like, all right, yeah, we have to do it. Like, why wait? There's our chance right there. So I filmed my intro right there in front of the place, and then we were off. Now the funny thing is, while we were actually there in the moment, I know Phoenix didn't want to be on my camera because he didn't know me yet. He didn't know how close of friends we were going to be, and he didn't want like his identity out there like that for some reason. I'm not sure. We filmed the whole video, and I just told him, yeah, I'll cut out any parts that have like your face in it, or I'll blur them or whatever. But then we became like such close friends over the next like few months after that, and it took me like 3 months to actually post that video because I purposely saved it to be the first upload for 2021, I think it was. So by that point we were best buddies. I think we were already planning on filming other stuff, so basically we just put the video in as normal, like nothing was blurred or edited or anything. The rest is history after that. Phoenix became like a very integral part of like the channel after that, and he was in multiple other videos afterwards. I don't think we've seen him on the channel in like years at this point, but me and him still to this day talk about maybe filming some more, maybe going on like a road trip or something, if he weren't so preoccupied with like being in like the air guard and like his duties to that and the risks that would be involved with going out and doing exploration stuff while he's got that going on. But you'll see him again, I promise. Anyway, other than that, for the actual hospital itself, this was a groundbreaking video because I'd never explored a place that was that like fully intact and untouched. As far as like no graffiti, no vandalism, just a mint condition building. So even though there wasn't that crazy much left in there, at least not that we found, like as far as like beds and equipment and stuff, it was still like amazing. And the three of us spent like probably 3 hours in that building. I never spent that much time at any other abandoned building. So that brings us to the third thing about this one that I wanted to cover. The first was Phoenix, and the second was just what an amazing place it was. But the third was what we almost ended up doing there. So, like I said, me and Phoenix, we got to be like best buddies right after filming this and getting to know each other. And our friends also joke about it too. Like there was a part that was never on camera because I wasn't filming at the moment where me and Phoenix went up to the roof of this place. And for some reason, that's like where we just started bonding. Like we just started talking about life and stuff up there, like our goals and ambitions. I always remember it. We were just laying there up on the roof, just chilling off camera. It was like such a candid moment. But that's besides the point. The point I was going to make here was what me and him, after becoming like best buddies, were going to do there. So we talked on and off for like at least a few weeks or months about going back there and doing like a full overnight like video. Even going so far as to like do like a Ghost Adventures like spoof, kind of like ghost hunt, just to see what would happen. Because of like with all the history that would have had to been there, like all just like the fact that it was a TB hospital before becoming like a more regular hospital, like just the stereotypical hauntings that would have to go down in a place like that, like made us just want to spend the night there. Like me, I'm skeptical about ghost stuff, but I'm always open to like try it and be like scared and stuff, because like who wouldn't want like a good real scare? So we were so set on going all the way back to this place and spending an entire night there, just knowing how open and unguarded it was, that we got to within hours of going and doing it. I remember on at least one or two occasions I had an entire like night's worth of supplies packed into a bag, and I was ready to walk out the door to go pick up Phoenix so that we could go all the way back to that place and spend the night there. But something just kept coming up to stop us from doing it. One time it was just because his parents weren't going to let him, and the second time it was just straight up, it just began to absolutely storm outside, like torrential rain, thunder, lightning. It was like severe weather. So that kind of stopped us from doing it. And we just never got around to it afterwards, because eventually that place did become much more well secure. They did eventually start guarding it. They put like a full-time caretaker on it. And then the building itself got like auctioned off and sold, I think. After those first two almost attempts at doing that, we never really got an opening to do it again, because it would have just been too risky at that point. But I'll never forget like just the pure adrenaline that was going through my heart at the thought of spending an entire night at that place and like doing like a ghost hunt or whatever with just one other dude. It would have been like so incredible, and it would have been an amazing video, but we just never got around to it. And that's like my biggest takeaway from that place. Not like the actual adventure itself when it was on camera, but the adventures that we almost had that didn't wind up happening. So that's my biggest takeaway from that one. And that's where we're going to finish this video. I hope you liked it. Obviously on Jared Coker Urbex, I filmed like 100 other videos, so if you want me to do like a part 2 to this video where I tell some more stories about other adventures, like, man, I've had so many crazy adventures, even better than all these videos I just talked about. These are just the ones you wanted me to talk about. So if you want a part 2, tell me in the comments, and maybe I'll put out like another thing on like my community page on JCoUrb or on like my Instagram. And we'll see, but let me know what other videos you want me to talk about, and I hope you enjoyed this one.